Hello, this is Andrine, the Jewish American Priestess, and I'm bringing you a timeless reading today. We're going to be using 3 different decks in our reading, and you get a chance to choose which one of these decks resonates with you today. And then we get into our reading, we're going to shuffle, and we'll see which of these cards comes out on the top and on the bottom. The top card will be what is up right now, and what's on the bottom of the deck is what's underlying this outcome, and then we'll do some Hebrew reading as well on top of that. So choose which one of these decks appeals to you, and you can choose more than one, of course. If you have more than one question, you might want to assign each question to one of the decks. And I'll put the timestamps down below. This will be deck number 1. This is the Aquarian Tarot. We've got the Wildwood Tarot number 2, and this deck, which is the Amenti Oracle, Living with a Feather Heart. So choose which one of these appeals to you, and I'll put the timestamps below, and you can click on that to find your separate readings, or again, listen to more than one if you like. I'll see you there. Welcome to those of you who chose pile number 1. This is, like I said, the Aquarian Tarot. And we're just going to take a moment to shuffle and see which cards end up on the top of the pile and at the bottom of the pile. So think of your question or your concern, or if it's just a general, what is going on right now in the world sort of feeling for you. And I'm going to give it a couple more shuffles, and then we'll stop when it feels right. And let's see what we have. So at the top of your deck, you have the 5 of Pentacles. Okay, and the 5 of Pentacles is traditionally a card of illness or loss. It's of concern that, there's these 2 people who are walking outside in the snow past this lighted window that has the 5 Pentacles in it above, where there's warmth and sanctuary inside, but right now they're wandering outside in poverty and illness. So that may be of concern, or what is up for you in this moment. Let's take a look also at what comes up at the bottom of the deck. And at the bottom of the deck we have the 2 of Pentacles. The 2 of Pentacles, which is about finding balance, and there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of water in the background here. This person is trying to juggle more than one thing to find the answer. Maybe there's a query of go this direction or go that direction, or maybe find a way to incorporate both directions as you're moving through this time of indecision and illness and sorrow. Let me put these 2 cards down on the table, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see more closely what we're looking at. And the way I'm seeing this, I'm going to pull this bowl out also. The way I'm seeing this right now is you've got this concern that is about health or wealth or well-being that is up right now. That there's a wandering, there's a time of looking for some sanctuary. There's a time of feeling outside or feeling abandoned perhaps by community or by faith. And yet right there is the window. Right around the corner is that sanctuary that you're seeking. And if you can look up from the sorrows, if you can look up from the ground right now where you're walking, you may be able to find that warmth and comfort that you're looking for. The Pentacles are all about, earth-based things. They're about money, they're about health, they're about, just finding stability in the world, something really concrete. And it isn't always about money, but there's something physical, the earth itself, that is manifest right now and is not doing well. There's a little bit having some discomfort, having some disquietude. And what's been underpinning this is a decision, an attempt to balance those earthly things, maybe balance health and wealth, maybe balancing work and our personal life or our pleasure, work and pleasure. And that there's an emotional component underneath, as I said, that is asking you to find the flow, to find your way through by feeling into your body, by feeling into the earth. And you can notice on this card also there's this infinity loop here that is surrounding those two pentacles. So this character is holding the pentacles and juggling them in this infinity pattern, which is to say we have to find a way to balance money and health and work and pleasure. And that's what's underlying this feeling of discomfort and disquietude right now in the situation. So let's pull out some Hebrunes. We're going to do probably a total of 7 today. I'm going to shuffle them up and we'll lay them down on the star. At the top we have the letter Shin. In the lower right we have the letter Samech. In the lower left we have the letter Lamed. Okay, we'll start with those 3. So starting at the top, this position in the reading is the position of what's coming down from divinity right now. And the letter Shin is the letter that begins the word Shekhinah, which is the indwelling presence of the divine. It's the mother letter of fire. And so there's illumination that's coming down from above. There's this indwelling spark that is within you, despite this feeling of discomfort and this feeling of maybe imbalance that's underlying it. There's this spark of the divine that is here, coming down from above. Shin is also the letter that speaks to the word shuva, which means to return. And when I'm doing this reading, we've just come through the high holidays. So this sense of returning to oneself, returning to the spark that is divinity within us is up. It's what's coming down from above. It's also the first letter of the word shalom, which means peace or wholeness, really. It comes down to having that feeling of repair and not just the absence of health, as we see in the 5 of Pentacles, but the wholeness that includes both illness and health and still feeling whole, because things do come in cycles. And sometimes that fire is here from divinity, this discomfort, and this fire is here to allow us to change directions or find some kind of wholeness, to find some kind of return to ourself. Shin is also the first letter of the word Shini, which means change. So something is becoming hot, some kind of agitation, that knowledge, that inner knowing inside of you is sparking you towards some kind of shift or change. And maybe it is this illness or this lack of security in our earth groundedness that is sparking you to change something, to find the wholeness that can be available to you from the divine. So that's what's coming down from above. Really lovely and appropriate. In the lower right corner, we have this position of what is it we know about our situation. And this position shows up with the letter Samech. Samech is this circle, it's a wheel. And it's similar to Shin in that it has this idea of cycles and changes and shifts that happen because it is a wheel that continues to turn. So it's like the seasons that are turning around. Additionally, you can see in the upper left corner this little tiny sort of point. And I think of that as the remnant of the thorn. There used to be a letter that was Samic in the Proto-Hebrew that looked like a thorn. And it is transformed into this wheel, but you have that little vestigial thorn up in the left corner that is saying there's some agitation here, there's some irritation. The letter Samic is the letter that means to be surrounded or protected. Samech means to be surrounded, and Sovev means to be surrounded. So it's about being protected and surrounded with boundaries and good protection from divinity, but at the same time, sometimes those boundaries can be thorny hedges. They can be something that is protecting us by putting up some kind of thorniness. And additionally, because it is about transformation and cycles and seasons, there's some shift that's happening. And there is this foundation of agitation. That we can't stay where we are. We can't remain where we are and remain healthy. The way these two figures are walking through the snow. You can't just lay down in the snow and expect to survive. You have to be agitated to move forward, to find that protection and shelter that you're looking for in the form of sanctuary. So there is this sense here of something transforming that we know is happening, that there's an agitation or an irritation that is causing us to have to pull forward and move forward into finding the protection and the boundaries that we require in order to survive well in our situation. In the lower left corner, we have the letter Lamed, and this is the position of what is the unseen in the situation. And the unseen is Lamed. Lamed is about heart. It's the first letter of the word Lev, which means heart-mind. And that in the ancient times, the heart and the mind were not seen as separate. This is this sense that there's something that we know. There's some inner knowing here that maybe what we're not seeing is that our heart already knows the right way to go. The Lamed, I see it as, it's the one letter that reaches above the line in Hebrew, so it's about aspiration, it's about reaching up to divinity for hope. So we have this hope that's underneath here, even though we're feeling uncomfortable, even though we maybe have some illness or poverty that's going on. That what we're not seeing is the underlying hope that this heart-mind knows how to discern what's coming in and will know what to do. So even if we're feeling a little bit hopeless, underneath it all is some kind of hope and ability to discern the right thing to do. So we can trust that even if it's hard to see right now, the heart-mind is at work underneath the situation. Let's pull out some more letters to see what else we've got going on here. At the bottom we have the Zayin. In the upper left we have the letter Mem. And in the upper right we have the Ein Sof. Very nice. So what I'm seeing here at the bottom, this is the position of what is underlying, what's coming up from, what's supporting us really on some level at the bottom of our reading. What is either the root cause of what's going on or what is supporting us here, maybe both. The letter Zayin is about sovereignty. It's the sword and the scepter. And it's also the number 7. So on some level it also corresponds to the day of Shabbat, Shabbat being the day of rest. So maybe rest is going to be supportive right now. That seems right as a person who might be feeling some illness. Maybe it's time to take some rest and to reclaim your inner sovereignty here. It's the number 7, so it has to do with that sort of magic, that luck that comes with the number 7. That there's a completion here. The 7 days of creation have come to an end, and there's a finality that is underpinning this reading also. But because it's affiliated with Shabbat, it also corresponds to the Shabbat bride, who is the Shekhinah, bringing us back up to the Shin. So you kind of have Shekhinah both at the top and at the bottom of your reading surrounding you. It's just lovely. So even though there may be some discomfort and some indecision or difficulty discerning what is the right thing to do, you have the divine above, and you have Shabbat and the divine below, that Shabbat bride underneath it all. And with that comes that sovereignty, that idea of both divine sovereignty, but the sovereignty of yourself that dwells within you, coming to you from the divine. So, you know, again, even though things may be challenging right now with this Five of Pentacles, you know where to go. You know what to do to find your support. You just need to claim your inner sovereignty, to claim the sovereignty that's given to you by divinity in order to find your way along the route. In the upper left corner, we have the position of what is our fear or challenge here in the situation. And we have the letter Mem. The letter Mem, which is the mother letter of water. It corresponds to sort of the uterus or the womb or the belly in the body. You can see it has that little opening at the bottom as if the water can pour out those healing waters, the Mayim Chaim, the waters of life. And we can call upon Miriam, the matriarch, who is the one who has the magical, mystical well that follows us throughout the desert and supports and sustains us. And in this position of the fear or the challenge, it's possible that you're not feeling that nourishment right now. You're afraid it's not there, that well is hidden from you right now. And the Mem also being the water Hebrewn corresponds to this idea of gestation. So there's this wandering that's happening. It's wandering right here in the Five of Pentacles. It's the number 40 in Gematria. And so it has this sense of the 40 weeks of gestation in the body, but also the 40 years in the wilderness as we wandered through the desert. The 40 days of rain when Noah was in the ark. So there's this period of time that's about waiting and gestation and not knowing how it's going to turn out. So yeah, absolutely a challenge as we're wandering right now through this difficult time, as we are wandering in the desert or we're waiting for the thing to be birthed. The not knowing is very, very challenging right now. In the upper right corner, we have the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof is the blank. It is this letter that is no letter. It's sort of the wood onto which all the other letters are carved. And it represents, to that end, the divine that existed before the letters existed. So this idea of the blankness, the tohu vavohu, the unknown and the void, the divine itself of wholeness that is oneness or zeroness, that which came before and that which will come after all things. So in this position of what is our advice or our outcome, more I'm thinking of in terms of advice is be open. Be open to whatever is being presented to you. Don't prejudge what's coming at you. Don't assume anything. That there's this spaciousness, this ability for potential for all creation to happen here with this blank space. That this is the time before. We're in this gestation period, and the blankness is here, saying the divine is with you, that anything is possible. There's this ultimate manifestation of the unknown and the potential for anything to happen. So really remain open is your advice here as you are moving your way forward. And we're going to pull out one more Hebrew for the center as kind of our outcome here. And let's just see what it is, and then we'll just try to do an overview. What is our outcome for deck number 1? And we have the letter Pei. The letter Pei is the mouth. It's the mouth of the divine speaking creation into existence. So really beautiful ending here. What it's saying is that there is the potential to be able to speak what you would like to see into creation. That in the beginning there was the void, and then the divine spoke with their mouth to say, let there be light, let there be things, let all these things become created, let there be water, separate the water from the above and below, creation throughout the entire 7 days. And you have that power. That power of speech has been given to us as humans. It is this beautiful ability that we have to know that our words are powerful, that we have the ability to create as we speak. There's an old saying for magical abracadabra, right? We've heard this. Abracadabra is said to be a sort of misnomer about the phrase in Hebrew, which means I create as I speak. So you've got the potential for making magic with your speech. It is this idea of communication and creation. And it's a spiral too. You can see this looks like a spiral, as if time is spiraling in and out. We have this ability to speak our way through the creation. It is the binary transformation of grace and ugliness. So rather than cursing our situation and saying, oh gosh, I'm so sick, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, imagine how health would look and speak in blessings. May I be blessed with health. May my family be blessed with health. May I know the right way to go. Speak what you would like to see rather than cursing what you don't want to see. And that will give you the ability to create through that spiral of time, through the labyrinth that is our universe right now. And so it's a beautiful reading with the Five of Pentacles. There is some difficult and challenges, this idea that positive change will come through adversity, that underlying it has been some kind of attempt to balance work and play and health and illness, balancing, understanding that the divine exists on all the continua, so that you have health and you have illness, and they both contain divinity. That you have poverty and you have wealth, and they both contain divinity. So finding the balance here to discover how it's playing out for you right now. That you're seeking a way to find your way to sanctuary. The divine is here, watching over you, giving you that spark of inspiration, the fire that is asking you to recognize the divinity within you, that you're being protected and surrounded with divinity, but again, agitated forward to find the way to the safe place, to find your way through to whatever you're going through to find health. That what's unseen is that the heart and the mind already know. They already have the discernment to know which way to go. Underpinning this is sovereignty, the sovereignty of the divine, your own personal sovereignty, and this ability to rest, this necessity to rest. The seventh day of creation is Shabbat. The divine created rest, not because the divine needed rest, but because rest is a holy act, and recognizing that rest is an important factor in your journey, that you need to take that time to rest in order to get up and move again. The challenge is the gestation. The challenge is finding the ability to trust in the divine and know that this is only happening for a set period of time, that well that you need is hidden, but you can find it, that you can know that the challenge with the gestation can be moved through. That is, again, just a period of time. Everything cycles and changes and turns. That the advice here is to remain open to the divine, to know that divinity is here, watching over you, that it's cradling you, that it's giving you the potential for anything to happen, and you need to be open to anything happening. But in the big picture, you're coming back to a place of being able to speak what you would like to see in the world. So spend time in rest. Spend time contemplating what it is you would like to see, and bless rather than curse, and you will find your way through this difficult time to a place of creation and safety, and the recognizing, that balancing, that it's all divinity in the big picture in the end. So for those of you who chose deck number 1, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you here next time. Welcome, deck number 2, those of you who chose the Wildwood Tarot. We're going to take some time to shuffle the deck and see which cards end up on the top and on the bottom, and that'll give us some discernment about what we're reading about today. So let's take a shuffle and see what we end up with. And then we're going to take some Hebrunes and get some clarification about each of these things. Let's just give it a minute. Shuffle until it feels right. And again, we're not looking for cards to come out, we're just looking for a nice, satisfying shuffle. Here we go. Okay, at the top of our deck, we have the 8 of Vessels with Rebirth. Very nice. We got a lot of water going on here. Many, many vessels. Streams and water flowing. 8 of Vessels. Rebirth. And so that's what's at the top of our reading. That seems to be the primary situation. And then at the bottom of our deck, we have the Green Man. It's the card number 4. And we'll take a closer look at him as well. The Green Man. And he's got a lot of different tools here. So he's got a spear and a big horn and a cauldron and a tiny little dragon friend. And he's got a lot of power, it looks like right now. So that's what's underlying our situation. So the top card is our situation right now. Where are we and what's the best outcome? And eight of Vessels, Rebirth. It's really lovely. Now, the 8 of Cups in traditional Rider-Waite tarot is the walking away. It's like a seeker's card, walking away from the cups and going off to search for something else. This is a very different card in this deck. And you can see there's just a ton of vessels, some in the tree, so this giant one hanging from the top here, a bunch of them down near the edge of the stream. Water is pouring both from above and from below, and it's very nourishing. It's very flow oriented. And this idea of rebirth is here. I'm trying to see who's up in the tree here. It looks like a little bird of some kind. So with the 8 of Vessels, there's this concept of, I mean, it can have that connotation of having walked away from something and then finding a new birth, like the 8 of Cups in the traditional tarot reading. And in this case, I'm just seeing a lot of flow. There's some shifts that are happening. The water is pouring down. Maybe it's coming out of the sky and it's coming out of the ground. It's coming down the mountain. And we have this opportunity for finding our flow, finding a way to be reborn in some ways, like that amniotic fluid that happens and bursts forth when a literal birth happens. So some really strongly nurturing, nourishing water of life is coming here for you right now. It's a lovely idea, lovely card. I'm going to set that here. And then on the right side, what we have underlying all of this is this power, the Green Man, number 4, which corresponds to the Emperor in traditional tarot. The Emperor, who is the master of the domain. The Green Man, the master of the forest here. And he's got his cauldron with the water. Again, some kind of liquid bubbling up in it. These faces that are on the cauldron, calling in additional power maybe of the ancestors. This horn, which, you know, it can be seen as a cornucopia or some kind of drink horn. He seems to be holding it very close to the water as if he was stirring with it almost, or maybe he's filling it. But it also looks like the shofar. And when I'm doing this reading, we've just come through the high holidays, so there's something very strong about the shofar blast that is waking us up to how things can be different. The green man is also holding this spear. So there's power, and he's got this dragon, which has got the fire, and the fire, of course, is under the cauldron. So many of the elements here that are at the command of the green man. And so this is the underlying card. This is what's started all of this, is that there's this power. There's this power and this transformation that's happening, this awakening that's happening, the command of the elements, the ability to concoct whatever it is you're concocting in your big cauldron here. And now we're moving on to a rebirth where things are flowing in a very fresh way. So let's pull out some Hebrunes to see what else is up. We're going to do 7 today. At the top of our reading, we have the letter Shin. In the lower right, we have the letter Zayin. And in the lower left, we have the letter Het. Okay, let's read these, and then we'll pull out some more. So the top of our reading is the letter Shin, and the letter Shin is the mother letter of fire. It's the first letter of the name Shekhinah, which means the indwelling presence of the divine feminine within each of us. And you can see it looks a little bit like flames coming up, like the flames under this cauldron here, that which causes the water to boil, that spark of the divine that is in us. And it's the word Aish, which means fire, has got that sh sound in it. That's about fire and spirit. It's also the first letter of the word Shalom, which means wholeness. It can be seen as meaning peace, but it's not peace as in absence of war, but peace as in coming to understand that the wholeness of all contains divinity within it. It's also the first letter of the word Shini, which means change. So something is changing, this transformation through fire. And sometimes fire will transform in such a way that it burns things down, but it can also cook things. It also transforms food to make it palatable or nourishing by cooking it. And we have this cauldron example here, that sometimes we need to heat things up in order to transform them. And it's the first letter of the word shofar. So also we have this idea of the shofar right here in the card with that horn that he's carrying. So something is hot. Something is transforming through fire. It's the letter that corresponds to the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky. So great power that comes with this. And the summer in the year. It is the letter that just means to return. Also Shuva is there. And since, again, we've just come through high holidays, that idea of Shuva or Teshuvah is about returning to ourself, returning to that spirit that is within us. So that's coming down from divinity. It's pretty great as a beginning. And then in the lower right corner, we have the letter Zayin. And Zayin, this is the position in the reading of what is known about our situation. And what's known about our situation is that we have sovereignty here. Zayin is the sword or the scepter. It's all about power and sovereignty. And you can see, again, this green man is carrying this spear, which is very much like this Zayin letter. So it has to do with our sovereignty, the sovereignty that's given to us by divinity. And it's the number 7 in Gematria, so it corresponds to the 7th day of creation, which is the day of Shabbat. It's a day of rest. We find our sovereignty and our power through our sacred rest. And the Shabbat bride, also known as the Shekhinah, is again at the top of our reading. So we have the Shekhinah sort of twice here already. This idea of the seven, which is the luck as well, and this idea of magic. So there's power here, there's magic here, there's sovereignty here, and we know this, we can feel it. We started out with the green man at the bottom, supporting us and having this underlying concept of power with the emperor, with the green man. So, and this is the letter that I correspond to the emperor in the tarot. So there's this power and authority here. It's exactly the same card as the green man here in my reading of the Hebrunes as they correspond to tarot. So a lot of power coming to you. There is this feeling of lightning that comes down. It corresponds to the month of Sivan in the year, which is when we receive Torah. And so this idea of the lightning and being able to see the sound of the shofar up on the mountain. There's just so much power with this letter, and it's known to us already. So you have this known power coming in, and what's unknown underneath it all is the letter Chet. The letter Chet is the number 8, so it comes right after 7. A lot of times we can't see what's coming next. The letter 8 is, of course, the letter Chet is the number 8, and it's the number that corresponds to the infinite, because one more than the last day of creation is the rest of time. So we have this idea of that infinity loop that comes with the Chet, this idea of life. It's the first letter of the word Chai, meaning life in Hebrew. It's also the first letter of the word Choshek, meaning darkness. And it's the Chet shows up for the first time in Torah in that word Choshek, darkness. So it's an important letter, it's an important word in that even though darkness might seem frightening and it's unknown, it's unseen because of the darkness of it, it's a really, really important, essential part of creation that we have light and darkness, that we can't just have light all the time. So there's something about the cycle that maybe is unseen right now, that there may be a time of darkness or a time of shadow self wrestling with our inner shadow, because this is in the position of what's unknown. It may be there's some shadow aspect that we don't understand. Again, rebirth would indicate that there's been an ending. So we have an ending with the 7th day of creation, and then this shadow time of the unknown that will then lead us toward this rebirth. Let's pull out some more letters and see what else we have. At the bottom of our reading, we have the letter Nun. In the upper left, we have the letter Gimel. And in the upper right, we have the letter Ayin. Okay. So the bottom of the reading, this letter that's in this position represents what is supporting us, or what is, what's the root cause of our situation here. And the letter Nun is the letter that, it corresponds to the idea of humility. You can see that it looks a little bit like somebody who is kneeling down and bent over. Their little head is bent down. And the word Ne'aman, which means humble, begins with the letter Nun. So it's something about faithfulness and devotion and loyalty that's here underneath it all. There's a lot of power coming in, again, from the divine Shekhinah, the fire, the Zayin, this idea of the emperor, the green man, having all this power. It's important to remember humility in the midst of all that power. Owning all that power is really important, but also remaining humble is going to really underpin this whole situation. It's going to allow for that rebirth if we can hold on to our humility in it. And be loyal and faithful to our own selves, to our own inner spirit, so that we're not getting drunk with power and trying to, be corrupted, taking advantage of other people, or wielding our power over others. We have to find that humility and remain underneath faithful. the letter Nun also begins the word Nes, which means miracle. So for me, when I look at the letter Nun, it has that, both that idea of being humble and being having humility without being humiliated. And through that humility, miracles can occur. So this is at the bottom, and for me, it corresponds also to the Hermit card in Tarot. So finding our power for sure, but underlying that is this ability to have humility. It will give us actually even more power if we can remain humble through all of this. In the upper left corner, this is the position of what is a fear or a challenge in our situation. We have the letter Gimel. Gimel is a camel or a foot, so it's about forward motion. But you'll notice also that the Gimel looks like the letter Nun with a little heel on the back of it. So I'm noticing recently this reading of it that is, we move forward from a place of humility. That the only way we can step forward is if we already come to it humbly. And that little foot at the bottom is the divine, the letter Yud, which is the first letter of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He, giving us the impetus to then move forward from a place of humility. Our fear or our challenge here is, how do we move forward when we are in this position? And there goes the random chime on my phone, which is saying the divine is here. And yes, that is the truth of the situation, that there is a fear or challenge about stepping out, that maybe we are being reborn here with this Eight of Vessels, that we have the power, but we don't really know how to move forward yet. And we need to find our humility so that the divine can give us that little bit of a heel on our boot to send us forward. So our fear is that we're afraid to move forward. And the challenge is, how do we move forward from a place of humility? And the next letter is the letter that is the position of our advice for the situation. We have the letter Ayin in the position of advice. The Ayin is the eye. It's being watched over by the divine with the sacred eye, but it's also being able to see our way forward, knowing that we have the ability to be watched over, but have vision forward. The letter Ayin is the number 70 in Gematria. So like the Zayin, it's the number 7, but it's times 10. So this ultimate completion. Something is coming to an end. Some major thing is coming to an end. And that's frequently the case with the Eight of Cups, is we're walking away from something, but we're walking towards something as well. The Ayin is about that completion and being able to see our way forward as we step forward with that Gimel, but also the foundation of laughter. In the Sefer Yetzirah, each of the letters corresponds to some foundation or transformation, and the Ayin is laughter. And I love that. I love that we have this ending and that we can laugh about it, that something has finished and now we can see what is funny about the situation, or that we can just move forward with joy towards something maybe that's better, some rebirth that's coming to us with the Ayin here. It's a beautiful reading so far. I'm going to pull out one more letter to give us a final outcome of our situation, and then we'll go back and review everything all together. Okay, and your final letter is the letter Mem. Beautiful. Okay, the letter Mem, which is the mother letter of water. And with this Eight of Vessels and this giant cauldron here, so much water, so much healing, so much growth. The Mem, as I said, the mother letter of water, represents the belly in the body. It represents gestation in amniotic fluid, that gushing forth of the healing waters, the Mayim Chaim. The wells that have been hidden from us in the desert are shown to us now from our ancestress Miriam, who begins with Mem as well. Mikvah, the cleansing that happens through water. Also, we've got the water here and we've got the fire, and together they make that cauldron bubble. So our outcome letter is about cleansing. It's about transformation through water, about flow, and it's about gestation. Something is being reborn. Rebirth is our primary card here today. So gestation is coming, is happening, and birth is going to come out of that. It's a beautiful, beautiful ending to this reading. So I'm just really happy about it. You've got the fire coming down from above with the Shekhinah and peace and wholeness. You've got power here twice with the Emperor card as the green man, the Zayin being the sword or the scepter corresponding to the Emperor card. And this unknown peace, which is an ending and a new beginning, that infinity that comes after the final day of creation, which is Shabbat. And underneath it all, the humility that is necessary to bring the miracle. Humility, even though we have very visible power here, remaining humble will give us the ability to move forward, even if there's a fear or a challenge or an unknowing about how we will move forward. The divine is going to give us that heel so we can step forward. And we will be able to see. We'll be able to know that we're watched over by divinity, that we'll be able to see our way forward, that this big completion, which will move us toward infinity, is going to give us a rebirth. And there's the mem, that 40 days of on the mountain that is helping us to meditate our way forward. Those 40 years in the wilderness as we wander along, and the 40 weeks of gestation that bring us to a rebirth. Such a beautiful reading for you today who chose deck number 2. And I so appreciate you coming along for the ride. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Welcome, deck number 3, those of you who chose the Amenti Oracle, the Living with a Feather Heart Oracle, which calls on the ancient Egyptian guide about weighing the heart with a feather. And this was a deck that was gifted to me by a friend. And so we're going to start by shuffling up this deck and seeing when it feels complete. And then we'll take a look at the top card and the bottom card. We may have to read a little bit in the booklet about them, as I'm less familiar with this deck than I am with many of the tarot and oracle cards I often use. Let's just give it a few more shuffles and make sure we feel complete as you think of your question or concern. Let's see what comes up. Okay. All right, at the top of our deck we have, I honor animals with reverence. So that's what's up right now. We have this beautiful picture of a woman, green woman. She's got a cat, I think it's a cat, and then a bird, and there's a snake at the top. A lot of symbols of divinity. So that's what's up. I honor animals with reverence. And at the bottom of the deck, we're looking at, I remain in balance with my emotions. I remain in balance with my emotions. So that's what's underlying this reading right now. So I don't know if you've got something coming up with your animal friends or animals in nature, but something about honoring animals today, as well as remaining balanced with your emotions. Let me find out if we can get more information from this booklet. Okay, so I honor animals with reverence. Ancient Egypt, cats were held in high esteem and treated with great care. Royalties would dress their feline companions in golden adornments and allowed them to eat off their plates. These sacred creatures helped protect the community, their food supply, by fighting off mice and cobras. And a punishment for harming a feline was incredibly severe. Bastet, an Egyptian goddess often represented as half feline, half woman, was worshipped as the safeguard of the pharaoh, the keeper of women's secrets, the goddess of home and childbirth, and the protectress of felines and their caretakers. The concept of the sacred nature of the animal, not just felines, has rippled through many cultures beyond Egypt, including the totemic animals of many Native American traditions, spirit animals within shamanic philosophy, as well as spirit familiars in magical practice. In embodying the ideal of treating all animals with reverence, we find a vision of every life as something to be cherished and a magic behind every life, no matter how big or small. So finding the magic and honoring all life, hugely important right now. And in remaining in balance, what's underpinning this, what is the basis for this situation? Remaining in balance with the emotions, ancient Egyptians considered the heart to be the most sacred organ, as this conscious center of emotion and memory was thought to be the key that unlocks the doors to heaven on earth and the hereafter. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Anubis weighs the heart of the deceased against the feather of Ma'at, representing truth and justice. And if the heart is as light as her feather, you are granted permission to pass into the heavenly paradise through the portal. However, if the heart is dense with destructiveness, anger, vice, sadness, and wrongdoing, Amit, an Egyptian goddess known as the devourer or soul eater, consumes the heart, and you are unable to pass through to the next world. The evocative imagery on this otherworldly ritual invokes can be viewed as a powerful metaphor for the importance of keeping a balanced scale in this life with your heart in alignment with truth, a key for the here and now, which can unlock doors to higher realms of inner and outer light. So remaining in balance with emotions is hugely important as a way to make sure that you are honoring all animals, I guess all human animals and other animals as well, with reverence. Even when it might seem difficult or frightening, some animals might be challenging to be around, again, including humans, but finding a balance within your own emotions to find that heart space that will give you the ability to honor everyone, all beings, with reverence. So let's pull out some letters to see what else comes up. At the top of our reading, we have the letter Kaf. In the lower right, we have the Vav. And in the lower left, we have the Lamed. Very nice. So we'll read these three first, and then we'll pull out three more, and then a final seventh letter at the end. At the top of our reading, this is the position of what is coming down from divinity for you right now. And we have the letter Kaf. Kaf is seen as the palm of a hand or the sole of a foot. It is about wealth and poverty. And it's the first letter of the word koach, which means power or strength. It's also the first letter of the word keter, which means crown. So there's something here about sovereignty and strength and power. And when I think about it, it is the letter that I've corresponded to the strength card in tarot, which you'll know, if you know anything about tarot, has a woman who is gently closing the lion's mouth. So just like this woman and the cat here that's quite large on the card, this is very much representative of that same idea, honoring animals with reverence, even when they're frightening. The mouth of the lion and being gentle with it in order to maintain your safety as well as your honoring of that animal being. And giving and receiving, if we are kind to others and if we're kind to animals, we will receive that love and that grace from divinity coming down from above. The Kaf is the letter that is about covering over. It's the letter that corresponds to like the hat, the kippah, or the keter, the crown. So it being at the top of the reading is awesome. It's about being covered over with something. It can be about oppression. The palm of the hand can oppress. The sole of the foot can put one's foot on the neck of another. So it can be about oppression, but it can also be about being lifted up by the palm of the hand, by the hand of the Shekhinah. It is the letter that it shows up twice in the word skach, which is the covering that we have over a sukkah. And as I'm doing this reading, we're heading toward the time of Sukkot, where we're going to put this covering over the top of our sukkah, which is this little house that we build outside this time of year, in order to create a shelter for us that will protect us from the sun, but it has to be, the skach has to be thin enough that you can see the stars through it. So it's this temporary dwelling that has this covering over it, and it's this this idea of fragility that's happening. And so honoring, for us in this case, when we're here outside, we're amongst the animals. We have birds that are coming through. We have, mice and rats and cats that walk through our sukkah all the time. So there's a lot here in this letter that seems to reflect that honoring of animals with reverence, the idea of the strength card, the power that we have to be gentle, the power that we have to shelter others and to be lifted up and to lift up others without being oppressive. The kaf also corresponds to the sun in the sky, and I know that in Egyptian there's a sun god and a sun disk. And that sun is our source energy, and it can be incredibly powerful, but it can also burn you. So it's important to shelter from the sun. So a lot going on here with the kaf and the honoring of animals with reverence. In the lower right position, we have the letter vav. And this position in the reading is the position of what is known about our situation. The vav is the letter that literally means and in Hebrew. It's about connection. It looks a little bit like somebody standing tall with their head slightly bowed, or a little bit like a taproot that goes down into the earth. And it, in the ancient or Paleo or Proto-Hebrew, it looked like a peg or a hook. So it's about connection, connecting two things together that may seem disparate, or they may be just needing to connect with each other, us with the divine, the earth and the sky, us with another person. It's about unity with divinity, joining the heaven and the earth. And it is the number 6 in Gematria, so it has to do with those 6 directions, the north, south, east, west, above, and below. And at this time of year, when we are in the sukkah, if we do Sukkot, we have a lulav and an etrog, which are these 4 species. We bring them together and we shake them in all 6 directions. So what's known right now is connection, some connection that's happening with ourselves, with others, with other animals, with the earth, with the sky, and all the directions. And the divine out of that as well, because divinity is manifest in all the creatures of creation. So the Vav is what's known right now, that there's connection happening. And in this position is what's unknown. And we have the letter Lamed. Lamed is the letter that begins the word Lev, which means heart. And we had been talking about the heart being in that scales, that lightness of heart, which will give us the ability to move on to a place of paradise, a place of joy and connection with the divine. So what's unknown in our situation is the heart-mind. And the heart-mind in ancient Hebrew was seen as one organ, that we knew things with our heart, in the same way the Egyptians revered the heart as the most important organ. The lamed also corresponds to the digestive tract in the body, the intestines in particular. And so it's about taking things in, discerning what's appropriate and necessary, and releasing that which is not. So digesting information, spiritual information, education, and also food. So we take in what we need to take in, and sometimes we don't know, we can't quite discern. So what's unknown right now in this situation is this heart. How light is our heart? Are we able to discern? Can we take in information appropriately? Are we honoring animals with reverence? Are we remaining in balance with our emotions? This is unknown right now. We can't quite see it. But we do know that connection is here, that power is here, and that that strength is here. Let's pull out 3 more Hebrunes. At the bottom we have the letter He. In the upper left we have the letter Tzadi. And in the upper right we have the Aleph. Okay. So the lower right letter, the bottom letter in the reading is the letter that corresponds to what is the root cause, or what is shoring us up in this situation. And it's the letter that begins the word Hineni, meaning here I am, presence, showing up. And that corresponds very much to the bottom card of the deck, which is that remaining in balance, being present, showing up, saying, here I am, available and ready for service to the divine. The He is 2 of the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He, which is, in my way of saying, that half of divinity is just showing up. And half of showing up for divinity is being present and listening. So I think about this letter as the way to find our way in honoring animals with reverence, as well as remaining in balance with our emotions, is to show up and to be available without judgment. Really sitting with what is, sitting with presence, sitting with this idea of the divine. And the He corresponds to the liver in the body, which is the organ through which we filter things. Again, more discernment here. It's also the word in Hebrew for liver is keved, which is the same root as the word for kavod, meaning honor, glory, gravitas. It's the heaviest organ in the body. So since we're talking about Egyptians and their love of organs here, we have this idea of the liver and the ability to discern. So this is good. This is what's at the bottom of our reading, this gravitas, this weightiness, this ability to remain present and being able to balance what we need to balance here. I think of the He as corresponding to the hanged man in tarot, which is just hanging out and finding enlightenment through remaining present even in the challenges of a situation. So that seems really appropriate here with the balancing that's going on. In the upper left corner, this is the position of a fear or a challenge in our situation, and we have the letter Tzadi. And Tzadi is the letter that represents the word justice. It's tzedek, which means justice, or tzadik, which is a righteous person. And so our fear or challenge here is that justice is not being meted out appropriately. There's some injustice that's happening, that maybe every being is not being honored with reverence. Maybe we aren't in balance of our emotions, but we're hoping for justice. And justice is a complicated thing. It's also, tzedek or tzadi is the letter that starts the word tzedakah, which means, it's often translated as charity, but it's more like mutual aid, taking care of each other in times of need. In that same way, we're honoring all animals with reverence, including all human animals. Where is that not showing up, or how are we afraid that that isn't showing up? That there's been some miscarriage of justice, that this is the challenge right now, that we're seeing a miscarriage of justice. And tzadi is this letter that looks like the letter nun with the yud on its back. And I think of that in terms of if we can find humility and divinity together, we will come into a place of justice. But right now, the fear or the challenge is that justice is not being served, that things are not being honored as they should. People and animals are not being honored as they should. Maybe people are being treated like animals, and animals should be honored. But our advice in the upper right corner is the letter Aleph. And Aleph is the first letter. It's the letter number 1. And it is also about connection. You can see that Vav right in the center of it, very similar to the Vav in the lower right corner. Connection between the divine above and the earth below. Connection and balance. This is like the scales. How do we balance heaven and earth? Very, very similar to this balancing of emotion, this balancing of above and below. As above, so below, and as below, so above. It's about finding our way also. It's sort of a crossroads. As we come down the path, we have to decide which way do we turn. And this balancing of our connection with the earth, our balancing of the connection with the divine, how do we reconcile those two? Our advice here is to breathe. This is the mother letter of air. So that idea of sitting with presence and just taking time to breathe in the concept of oneness, that there's unity within divinity and there's multiplicity within divinity, that the divine has infinite manifestations in the world, in the form of animals, in the form of other people, in the form of plants, the plants which give us the air to breathe. So our advice in the situation is to breathe into that, breathe into the oneness of all, recognize that we are all one, that there is no division in the big picture in the end. So that's fantastic advice as we find our way to balance with that scales. Let's pull out one more letter. It's an outcome letter for our reading. And our final letter in the reading is the letter Pe. The letter Pe is the mouth. It's the mouth of the divine. And it's speaking creation into existence. It's saying, in the beginning, there is, there was. We have also been given the power of speech. So we are compelled to speak blessing into the world in order to create what we'd like to see. This is a spiral. And it spirals infinitely in and infinitely out. It's the number 80 in Gematria, so it has to do with that number 8, which is the infinity loop, times 10. So an ultimate manifestation of the infinite here. It's the mouth, like I said, of the divine saying, let there be light. And we get to discern how we'd like to speak and what we would like to create with our words. Our words are powerful. We have that koach at the top, and we have this presence at the bottom. And that the speaking is an important aspect to balance that power and that presence. The Pe is the binary transformation of grace and ugliness. So we can use our words to curse, or we can use our words to bless. And we are being compelled to bless what we'd like to see into existence here. So as we go back over this, honoring all animals with reverence, and not just all animals, but all things, all beings, all creation is holy and is sacred. And we need to recognize that. That underpinning this is this balance of our emotions. How do we balance our heart against that feather? And in this picture, it looks like there's an eye also against the heart. So how do we see and balance our heart, that yin and yang? There's power here. We're being sheltered by the divine. We're being lifted up by divinity. There's connection. We have connection with ourselves, with the divine, with another person, with animals. That maybe what we don't see is where our heart is in that balance right now. That we may not be able to discern exactly what we need to take and what we can leave behind. That we're coming from a place of showing up. Hineni, I am present, I am here, I am available for service. That our fear or concern is that justice is not being carried out appropriately, and that our remedy for that is to bring ourselves back to the breath, to sit in presence, breathing in the air, to find the balance of give and take, of inhale and exhale, of the oneness of the divine and the oneness of all within divinity. And that will lead us to a place where we're able to speak appropriately, speak blessing into the world. So that is your reading, those of you who chose deck number 3. I hope you liked it. I thought it was great. I think it's a beautiful reading. And I hope that you'll come back and see me again some other time. If you like, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you here next time.